Hey, every year we roll up for the Supercars Championship. Liveries, or the application of the sponsors' decals on the paintwork, gets better and better. And this year, it's just better again. So I want to go through, and rather than just look at all the liveries, there's 24 of them there. There's actually 25. We've doubled up one. See if you can pick it. Rather than actually just go through the liveries per se, what I want to do is explain to you a little bit so you can understand the challenges that a team has in arriving at a livery. There's a lot of reasons we look at some and go, and some look great. And it's not as simple as it first appears. So when we look at our typical supercar, now remember, you're going to raise somewhere between $2.5 and $4 million per car. Varies wildly up and down the pit lane. We're seeing an increase in terms of short deals versus multi-year deals in the changing marketplace. You've got to try and manage all of that. Now, when we look at a race car, then what are the important areas? Where's the real money going to be spent? Where do you want to be? Well, if we start there with the side of the car, typically about 60% of the base colour of a car and the side and the leading edge of the bonnet would be the primary areas of the car. Back of the bonnet, not so good, it's flat. Down here on the front three quarters, powerful sponsorship area, as are the headlights, because the camera's always looking in at front three quarter. It's always looking at the driver, so the top of the windscreen's a great area. Roof and rear wing, not so good, they're a little bit too flat. Rear three quarter is great, as is the rear of the car, because when another car's following with a camera in its headlight, you get to see it really well. So all of a sudden you can see, okay, I've got some really key areas I've got to try and nail. Others you don't necessarily want to avoid, but you're not going to raise as much money on them. So, you know, 7 figures around these areas, hundreds of thousands in these other good spots on the car. So when we actually look at the cars in pit lane then, if you've got sponsors that, you know, are in for a big chunk of dough and really milking and leveraging the sponsorship, as we say, making it work for them, you can end up with liveries like this that are consistent year on year. They're really strong liveries. I mean, look at that shell on the front. That is just, for me, it's just a really strong, simple, striking livery, and they don't have to change it much year on year. When we go further, there's another one, Monster Energy. Really nice use of Autobahn. That's probably a bit of a fluke that they end up similar colours, but nevertheless, strong and simple. Can't miss it. Then one more, can't say that doesn't look like a DeWalt drill or a DeWalt packet. Again, clever, strong, simple, well done. But striking balance. This is where it gets tough. So when you've got multiple sponsors and you've got to try and balance that along with your primary sponsor, here's a really good example, Davey Reynolds' car. Now, I can count 15 sponsors on that car, and these guys have done a good job because it is a challenge. I mean, what are you going to do? Say, I don't want the money because it's going to make my car look busy? No, you've got to try and strike a balance, use some graphic work that incorporates colours of the different sponsors. Again, we see a primary sponsor here on the leading edge of the bonnet. And that leading edge of the bonnet, because it curves down, it is much, much more visible than the back of the bonnet. Although the back of the bonnet is a bigger area, sorry LG, but it's flatter and you get a bit of reflection. So in fact, what I'm going to do there, just so you can see year on year how these do improve, there's Davey's last year car, nice and strong and simple, but you can see they've taken on some additional sponsorship. Davey's a one-car team this year with Penrite Racing, and I think they've done a good job of that to accommodate 15 sponsors on there. Well done. Let's keep rocking along. This one for me was a really interesting one. Another one where it's quite obvious. When I look at the slide, I look at this year on year. So this was last year. This is this year. Pretty obvious to me that Red Bull must say, you know what, we want 50 or 60% of the base colour of the car. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but you can work that out for yourself. Now, you imagine trying to negotiate with Red Bull about trying to encroach on their space. It would be really difficult. So again, I reckon this team's done a great job of trying to incorporate sponsors. I looked here and I thought, you know what, I reckon Ampol's a bit big, this looks a bit busy. I think they could have done it a little tighter. Sometimes big is not always better. But I've got to say, I walked up there before and looked at it in the flesh. It actually looks pretty damn good in the flesh. Probably better than it looks there. So not a bad job at all. Then this car here, I really like this car this year. Simple, strong, same sponsor as previously, but they've used the colours of the sponsor so much better in some of the graphic work, just the little strikes and bits and pieces. I think that's really nice. And then I was looking at it and think, I've seen that shape before, I love that shape. And any excuse to show Moffat's Mustang, look at this, there it is. They've nicked that and whacked it on a Commodore. Fancy that, eh? Look at that. Now, let's keep trucking. What's my favourite? Well, I got to say, this year, looking up and down the pit lane, this is really, really well done. Strong and simple. It's incorporated some other sponsors, but again, I love the use of the sponsors' primary and secondary colours in around some of these other licks and bits and pieces. But what really stands out, if you can see this thing out there in the sun, see this kind of wallpaper in the background? It covers the whole car. It is gorgeous. Now, I don't know who designed that, but whoever did do it, that's a big tick. That is a beautiful design, proportional of a race car. Well done, Erebus, really well done. So, forget what I say. You need to vote. We want to hear who you think your favourite is. So this story, if you get on the tweet face, Insta face, what's this thing? That thing there, right? I don't do social. And there's a story on there. You can go and give us your vote because we're really keen to see what you think. That's mine. Tell us what you think.